Hi there guys, this will be my first video on YouTube and I'm doing Gates of Hell Ostfront. We're going to do a bit of a breakdown of units for Conquest. We're going to start with the Germans and we'll start with infantry, go through AT guns, support weaponry and tanks. Tell me what you think, anything I missed or got wrong, but it's more for beginners who have never really played this type of game or hasn't played this game specifically. And we'll just go through some of the units and some things you may know and some things you won't, so let's get started. So the officer, your basic, your officer, he's not really meant for combat. What he does have is binoculars, which gives him, I believe it's 20% more range than most infantry. It might be a bit more for him. Great for spotting stuff on your defence, put near like a flak 88. On attack, sneak him up on hold fire, keep him in the bushes. You'll be able to spot those AT guns and machine guns before they cut into your troops. So, really useful to have, always have one. Command squad, officer with 3 guys. Not much point. I prefer to have the lone officer, but if you want the flavour, I guess could be useful. Command squad with car, just avoid the cars. The Kuma wagon's a death trap. Command squad with a half track can be quite cool. I do like the medic that comes with it. It can be quite useful, but you still tend to split the officer off and sneak it up by himself. But definitely looks a lot cool. I do like to bring it when I'm going a bit more mechanised later in and have troops and half tracks. So infantry will start with the Osttroopen squad. These are your basic, basically these were Osttroopen were people taken from other countries, like volunteer troops, conscripted. They were poorly armed, as you can see here. No LMG, rifles, 1 SMG, a few frag grenades, 100 health, 75 stamina. I would tend to avoid, but they're cheap and cheerful. You can kind of use them to just hold objectives if you need, but they won't win many fights. Straff Battalion squad, which is basically penal squad. Convicts, 3 SMGs, no LMG, same stats as your conscripts or your Osttroopen. Not great, would avoid. It's quite fun to have lots and just kind of imagine you use, I think it's Straff Battalion 239, I believe it was in real life. Basically lots of conscripts in the squad. Kind of do that kind of a, redeem yourself kind of playthrough, but not great either. Luftwaffe Rifle Squad, similar to Osttroopen and Straff Battalion, but they have an LMG. And it's an LMG 13, which you don't see many. That's quite an old variant. Not bad. Like I say, bad stats are the same, but you got an LMG at least, but I'd also avoid. Not really worth the research points. Your standard infantry, your Sish along squad. No LMG, rifleman, SMG, come with some frags and a couple of bundles, I believe. You might as well go straight to the rifle squad. Not really worth, but they're cheap and they can hold ground, but waste a pop cap in my opinion. Your Clara squad, which is a reconnaissance squad. They've got 20% range more than most troops. Chuck them on, hold your fire, or don't fire at all. Chuck them in some bushes, and they can be really, really useful. Really like these guys. Split them up, get in the bushes, use them to look after your troops. Rifle squad, your standard infantry squad, your meat and potatoes, not your meat and veg, should I say. Core of your infantry. They have 1 LMG, which is an MG34 drum, not the best capacity. You've got rifles, you've got an SMG, decent unit. They've got 200 health, 125 stamina, decent stats, lots of them. Use them to assault with mainly, use them as the bulk of your troops. And yeah, definitely worth a buy, have lots of them. Pioneer squad, your engineers, basically, your combat engineers. They have a flamethrower, they have an AT gun. They also come with, an LMG. Obviously, NCO SMG. They have grenades, anti-tank grenades. I do believe they come with the magnetic mines. They also come with a bit of TNT. Quite a cool unit. You might split a few things off, like I take the flamethrower separate and the AT guns, but I do like bringing these guys. Very fun, quite useful. The Blood Division. No, I'll skip this one. Sorry. Motorized Recon Squad. I don't tend to take them because it defeats the point of having them. Tend to have the on-foot squad. Motorized Rifle Squad. If you want a truck with your riflemen, you do have 2 LMGs, which can be fun. But I do tend to avoid them as well. And they have an AT gun. They're quite a big squad though, so they're more personnel because the truck can carry up to 14 men plus the crew. So that's pretty useful. But the truck will die pretty quick. You've got your armoured recon squad. I don't tend to use these, but if you want the kind of armoured reconnaissance flavour, you can. But the half track's not half bad. Good for supporting infantry. Won't last long against tanks or any dedicated AT. Armoured Rifle Squad are quite fun when I like to go full mechanised. 2 LMGs. Quite good if you need like a quick response unit, kind of laying at the back. But yeah, it's another, the half track's only meant for support. I wouldn't take it onto major combats. Tanks will just demolish it. Panzer Pioneer Squad, same as the Pioneer Squad before, but it's armoured, but it does lose its AT gun. But you still got your flamethrower and an LMG. Not bad, not bad. Here we have the Blue Division, which is the Spanish volunteer division, I believe. They came from, I believe it's Franco, Spain. Can't remember exactly. But they volunteered, about 50,000 almost altogether volunteered. They're actually pretty good stats. They've got one LMG. You got riflemen, your basic stuff. They're armed. He actually has a Gewehr 41. I believe there's two of them. So you've got two semi-automatic rifles as well, which is nice. They have decent stats. Bit weird on the research tree as they are compared to the other infantry. Just off to the side. So they're kind of a dead end on the research. But I really like doing the kind of Spanish Blue Division playthrough. Good units, and you do use them on, I believe it's the third German mission. We have tons of them defending against the massive Russian armoured units. Really fun. I do like these guys. Veteran Rifle Squad, basically your rifle squad, but even better. More health, better stats, but same weapons. So, I do believe it's the exact same LMG as well. Yeah, MG34 drum. Jaeger Squad, close combat variant, armed with SMGs, have one LMG, a couple of rifles. Just remember, when you get into fights in the open, they haven't got the range of most infantry units. So don't try and be taking on kind of Russian guards with these at range because they'll just get demolished. But good for close quarters. And the funny thing is, the Russians deployed an entire company of SMG troops because they thought the Germans will, and the Germans didn't. So the Russians kind of did the SMG thing in mass because they thought the Germans did. And I don't believe the Germans deployed SMGs in the squads like this often. It's just more for balance, I believe. But yeah, good unit. I do tend to use a couple of them, especially if it's close combat map. Or there'll be a lot of close woods or small hills and trenches to clear. I do enjoy them. Now you've got the Gerber Jaeger squad. These are kind of more your elite infantry. I like lots of these. They do have one semi-automatic Gewehr. I believe. Do they have a Gewehr or do they not? Actually, I don't think these do. I apologise more on that one. But they're good. They have good stats, good health, good stamina, good accuracy. They have an LMG, which is a 34 double drum, which is nice. You get a few grenades with them. You get some AT grenades in the bundles. Great. Basically, I prefer them to rifle and veterans. I like to have 2 or 3 squads of them. Kind of your main core infantry when you get a bit further in. Then you've got the Brandenburgers, which are actually, these were foreign volunteers, so obviously they had lots of different languages. They were well trained, I believe there was around 3,000, and they were sent behind enemy lines to kind of sabotage, mess with communications, attack the enemy, kind of when they least expected it on their kind of initial invasion. And a lot of German officers didn't like them because they didn't consider them honourable. They called it they're a bit of a dishonourable way to fight. But these were really useful, and they messed up the enemy a lot. They have dual MG42s with drum, so a lot of firepower there. You've obviously got your standard riflemen. You've got 2 SMGs squads, and they also, if you look at the health, 300, 250 stamina, bit less than the Gerber squads, but really good stats. I do like them, but that dual MG42 does lay down some fire. You can go through reloading quite often because it's a rapid fire weaponry. Then you've got the Grossland Motorised Rifle Squad, big rifle squad, as you can see, dual LMG 34 belts. Decent stats on them. Decent, they're quite good. They're kind of like Brandenburgers in a truck. I do like them, but I don't like the truck. But big squad if you want it, and just kind of, quick response unit. But personally, the Fallschirmjäger are better. Very expensive, but very, very good units. For instance, the stats are 350 health, 300 stamina. You got 6s in the selected categories. For instance, SMG in this guy. This guy's also got a rifle. He's armed with the Gewehrs. You do have a Gewehr in there. You have a sniper. You have 3 SMGs. You have MG42 with the belt, which is awesome. Really good squad, really good health, good stats, on par with the Russians' elite infantry. Great to have. Don't have too many of these because they'll absolutely absorb your manpower when they start dying. But yeah, if you've got a tough nut to crack and you've already sent the infantry up to clear out a bit, I like to use these guys to kind of, when I really need to take out the enemy threat like infantry. Especially at range, these things will crush. Really cool. And they are the German paratroop units, so really good. Motorised Fallschirmjäger, don't use them in the truck, they'll just get sniped by an AT unit. Just avoid them like the plague. AT detachment, do not use them, they're not worth it. You're better off just going for other AT variants. Panzerschreck team, really good. You've got the Panzerschreck that has more range than the Panzerfaust. It has 185mm penetration, I believe. Oh, sorry, I clicked the wrong thing. And it has up to 50 metres range, whereas the Panzerfaust is 200mm pen, but only up to 25 metres. I think go to about 30, it's Panzerfaust 60, so more range on the Schreck, but more pen on the Faust. I prefer the Schreck because also you can reload it, whereas the Faust is one-shot use. And I believe the Germans made 5.4 million during the war variants, so they were the first kind of disposable anti-tank weapon used en masse of this kind of variant. Anti-tank squad, just like before, but you've got 3 Panzerfaust, 3 Shreks, and an NCO. Really good unit. Split them up on the fence, wait for the enemy arm to come close, and then cut the T-34s with them. Medics, to explain yourself, 2 medics, useful to have, will keep your manpower costs, down, because you're saving troops. Grenade Rifleman squads, not bad, but it's kind of wasted because the amount of micro you need to make them effective, I would avoid. AP mines and AT mines speak themselves, anti-personnel and anti-tank. If you've got a mod where you've got more defense time, they are useful. If not, I'd avoid them because obviously with the micro, you don't get much time to actually set up defense. It's not really worth it. Field engineers, as I said before, if you've got a mod with more defense time, I do like to use them. Put some tank barriers down or build some in place, dugout positions, but a bit more micro as well for what you've already got to deal with. So sometimes best avoided. Flamer infantry. Not so good against infantry because it takes about a second to ignite and you normally get shot, but can actually take open top vehicles out easily and tanks. Very situational but fun to use. Do like to have one in the back lines, normally bring a Pioneer squad with one in. Let's say an ISU's coming up and you ain't going to deal with it. Get the flame to the side, cut the engines and watch as the thing goes up like the 4th of July. Tank crew, yeah, if you need some spare crew or you want to steal some tanks, which I definitely recommend doing if there's a T-34 there that you can take, chuck them in. When the match ends, you get the T-34. Lovely. Sniper. Lots of micro to make him effective. Can be useful to have, especially for instance, if you are playing as the Russians, you need a sniper. But even as Germans, Russians can get some Panzerfaust. If you can see someone who's a threat and you want to pick him out, go on the sniper, go into third person, zoom in, take him out. Good unit to have, but micro intensive. So it gives you 250 supplies. It will literally, the supply thing, how it works, if you don't know, doesn't matter what it is, artillery shells, bullets, not grenades, I don't think. But it will resupply them, just obviously certain things take more. So for instance, a flak 88 shell will take more supply than, a clip of 7.62. So yeah, always worth bringing 3 or 4 of these. Supply cart, similar to supply crate, but it holds 500. Now this is a weird one. The flash 33 is a spotlight. Basically extends your vision, but it's basically, you just put it in one place. You have to turn it around or you have to move it. Don't tend to use it, but it's kind of interesting. So, first of the emplacements, LMG 34. It's okay. I think the better option is to just bring a tank with machine guns, like a Panzer 1 or something, but this thing will hold infantry back, and it'll kill quite a lot, but, you chuck your sandbags up and deployed it, but it's very vulnerable to mortars and grenades, so not something I use often. MG42, same as just previous, but a lot faster, bigger fire rate. If you're going to use one, you might as well use the 42 because, let's be honest, it's god tier looking machine. Panzer Nest, it's pretty decent. Takes AT to take it out or a flamethrower, but I don't tend to use these. But yeah, if you do come up against them, get the tank just to nail around straight through, and you'll deal with that. But they look pretty cool when they're deployed. So AT gun, anti-air guns, 2cm flak. Now, can deal with planes, but it's quite close range. Good against infantry and light vehicles. I like it because in Saving Private Ryan, it's what the Germans did when the American troops were all over the tank, and you'll remember it's the sound a bit, the chunk, chunk, chunk sound. Really cool looking. I always bring one just because it's one of my favourite weapons, but it's not the best, but it's decent. Basically a better version of a 2cm flak with a bit of a shield for the troops, gun shield. I prefer the first version. I think it looks way cooler, a bit more rustic. 3.7cm flak's not bad for dealing with aircraft and light infantry. Bit of a slower rate fire than 2cm, but yeah, decent anti-air. Turn it around with you. 5cm flak, just stronger AA. Decent clip, I think it's 10 rounds. Yeah, it's decent anti-air, but personally I prefer the 88. So it will deal with air, decent range. It will deal with armour, and it has a very long range. And it has pretty decent penetration. Against your heaviest Russian tanks, it may struggle at the longer ranges, but its high explosive shells will rip the tracks off. So you've got a KV-1, you're struggling, switch to high explosive, blow the track off. You can hit it with artillery, you can take infantry up, or you just flank your own tanks. Great unit, always bring one with me. Bit costly though. Better version of the 88, and as you can see, 153 pen with the standard AP shells, goes to 128 at 200, but I think it goes up to about 220 range. So really good unit, good against tanks, can deal with air, and will blast infantry to bits. Even better if you can get some cover to kind of to here on it, the lower line. Then, but the thing is, it doesn't depress as much, so things getting close can kind of infantry can sneak past it. But really good defensive weapon, and because of the long range, you can always pull it up if you're short on an assault. Like let's say your tank's been destroyed, you can kind of pull it up to bring a bit of support. But It's still quite hard to kill as well. High explosive will deal with it, but it can take a few AT rounds because they go straight through the shield and just kill one crew member. But I do like the 88. Light anti-tank, 2.8 centimeter SPZB41. I believe it was supposed to be, I think it was used with, like, basically it was armor-piercing composite rigid rounds. It will penetrate up to 102 millimeters. It's quite decent against light and medium stuff on the side, but it's such a small round when it actually goes in. It doesn't. I don't find it tends to do much, so it's a pass, but it absolutely looks really cool. So it's an interesting thing from the Germans. 3.7 centimeter flak. This is not flak. Anti-tank gun. This is the start. This thing is weak. Good fire rate. Keep firing, but it won't deal with much. Just light armor and kind of trucks and stuff. I'd avoid it personally. 4.7 centimeter pack, 38T. It's a bit better, but not too strong either. But if you're struggling, you've got it's all you've got. It will deal with light tanks and medium tanks on the side and rear, depending on if you're using composite rigid rounds. But just be aware, it's not the best, and obviously the gun shield's awful on it. So yeah, it won't last long if it gets shot at. 5 centimeter pack. These are kind of the first AT guns that actually become useful. It'll deal with light armor. Your fast tanks as the core. That's like your BT7s, your BT5s. It'll even deal with things like your T28s, which are your multi-turreted first tanks, even up to T35 on certain weak areas. Against T34s, which are the kind of scary medium tank, it will knock the tracks off and it can penetrate the sides sometimes, so a bit of closer range. But it's not a bad AT gun. Like to have it behind my defensive line, so if something breaks through, I do have something to stop them when I don't have access to Panzerfaust and Shreks. 7.5 centimeter pack 9738. Now this was a captured AT gun that they converted, I believe, from the French. Now it hasn't got high velocity as your standard pack, so it uses high explosive anti-tank shells and has really good penetration. I think it's higher than 88mm, I'm sure, because I've taken out KVs with it. I've even taken out, I believe, an IS-2 with it the other day. It comes with a DLC from Scorched Earth. Well, that's when you tend to use it. It's not a bad AT gun, actually, and I quite like having one on the flank, so if something like a KB does burst in, your heat rounds, your high explosive anti-tank do quite a lot of damage, so see how you do with it. 7.5 centimeter pack 40. It's a good gun, very powerful, will absolutely demolish most tanks. Your heaviest tanks will survive it. Great frontline AT gun, really good, and it's got better. It's actually this pack, this 7.5 centimeter, is stronger than the tank ones as well, because this is the full AT variant. It's not having to be shortened for a tank or smuggled in. They have about 135mm pen. This is 150, so it's a great anti-tank weapon. Absolutely love it. Worth the cost. It's not got a bad gun shield on it. Can protect against infantries like small arms. I've actually had some of them survive high explosive rounds as well, so definite buy if you need AT. 8.8 centimeter pack. Now it's double the price, but this thing has 236mm penetration. It's the same gun that is in the Panzer. The King Tiger. It's the Panzerwagen number 6 Mark 2 or something. But the King Tiger. This thing will rip through any tank. It's a monster. Its high explosive shells are also very powerful. If you've got one of these, just wait for the tanks to come up forward. Don't worry about if you have to fight front. This thing will penetrate anything they bring. Absolutely love it. Only gets beaten by the Zatiga on penetration. Great unit. Even better penetration than the Panzerfaust. Phenomenal. And its lowest at 200 meters is 205mm. So yeah, it's awesome. And it has quite a decent fire rate as well. It's not bad. So it's a definite. So now we're on to the mortars. Mortars are amazing in this game if you've not been using them. How they obviously chuck shells, the mortar shells. Overcover, really powerful, really good fire rate. They're kind of overpowered, to be fair, and even some of the large mortars can take out vehicles if you do hit them. They do have a minimum range where things are too close, but like, for instance, your 12cm mortar can also take out medium tanks. I've even seen it take out heavy tanks, so definitely always something to buy. 80cm, about 180mm, 180 meters range. Good rate of fire, great at killing little groups of infantry. A couple of these will really make a mess of your enemy. And also, if the enemy's got more, it's the best way to counter them. And any open-top vehicles just get savaged. Same with emplacements, especially if the Russians are rolling up those 45mm AT guns that you don't see sometimes because of line of sight. Great for taking them out. 10cm mortar, better than the 8, but low fire rate. So better explosion, but less fire rate. It's okay, but I like to go straight to the Big Daddy. 12cm, 220 meters range. Penetration, it says 30, but I have penetrated heavy tanks on the vents at the top because it's quite thin. I've lit engines on fire, rips infantry to pieces, destroys buildings, destroys air placements. One or two of these, really good, but they go through supplies quite quick, so you'll need an ammo crate or two backing it up because Otherwise, your supply will just get eaten by them. But really good, great on defense, and I like to have on attack. 7.5 centimeter light infantry Gashoots is the correct name. It's actually not a bad unit. High explosive. I think it's 160 meters range when you do use it. High explosive anti-tank weapon. Or shells with it as well. It will deal with light and medium armor. Heavy stuff, not so much, but you'll blow the tracks with it. It's not a bad unit. Quite cheap for a little bit of AT / like light artillery. So it's not bad. Basically, the kind of one. If I'm going to use a kind of field, I like to use that. The 7.5 centimeter LG-40, little anti-tank gun or kind of like little kind of mobile support weapon. Has got high explosive shells and anti-tank shells. The high explosive and high explosive anti-tank. It's not bad, but the Fallschirm Jaeger. So if you want to do the Fallschirm Jaeger build, the paratrooper units, then take one of these if you want to kind of role play that. But it's a bit. I don't tend to use them, but yeah, they're quite fun. 15 centimeter Sig 33. It's a field gun. It provides a bit of firepower. I'm not a big fan of it, but if you want to use one, it's not bad, but it's overpriced in my opinion. So the artillery, the big boys, 10.5 centimeter light field gun or field howitzer. It's good rate of fire. It's decent. It does a good bit of damage. It will take out like medium tanks quite easy with the high explosive shells, and it will cripple heavier tanks. It also does have an anti-tank round, but like a armor piercing round. But if you're using that, things have normally gone wrong. Things have got into your lines. Good bit of artillery support. Not bad for the price. 10 centimeter SK-18. Slightly less power than the 10.5. Longer range. Bit more price. Good fire rate as well. I do like this artillery piece, and I think it's got about 470 or 500 meter range, which is, on the maps, most maps are like max like 600 or 800 by 800, so you can basically shoot most of the map. Great for defense and really useful for attack, especially if you're playing like Conquest Enhanced or anything where there's lots of enemy emplacements, so really good unit. 15 centimeter artillery gun, really awesome unit. Slower rate of fire than the other two previous artillery, but powerful, rips tanks to pieces and armor, great against emplacements infantry. Great for the assault when there's like an annoying AT gun that might be, maybe it's taken out a Panzer 3 or 4. You think I'm not risking any more tanks or infantry. Get the big guy firing. 17 centimeter K18 Mortars Lafayette. Or not actually used this one yet because it's come with the DLC Scorched Earth, but it's supposed to be quite decent, so I can't actually give you a thing because I've not actually used it yet. But personally, if you're going to use an artillery gun, you want the big one, go for the 21 centimeter Mortar. It's got a terrible rate of fire, but this thing, it takes chunks out of the maps. It's quite fun. It's not that accurate, but it has really good range as well, so it can be useful. Now, this is a weird one. It's a 20 centimetre, and it's a spigot mortar. It's used by artillery, but they're actually field engineers who use this. It's used to clear obstacles. It's got quite good firepower. I believe it comes with 20 of them, 20 rounds, or 20 shells, should I say. But it's a bit of a weird one. You might as well get the 12 centimetre mortar, but it does look cool. So there is, rule of cool, could be fun to take. 15 centimetre Nebelwerfer, 41. Also known as Screaming Memes by the Yanks. Really good. They're like a fuel-filled rocket, and when they hit, they will blow tanks up, they blow infantry up, they blow buildings, they blow emplacements. They can, I think sometimes they do catch fire. Fires six rounds, or 6 shells, or rockets, or whatever, I guess. But it's a slow reload time. That's the bad thing, but great for basically taking out a defensive position or firing support fire. 21 centimetre, same as before. Bigger bang, only 5 shots though. I do like it, but personally, you might as well just go for the 30 centimetre in that case. You get 6 shots, 30 centimetre, rockets each. They're really good, do a lot of damage, slow reload time, take a lot of supply if you're going to replenish, but really good, and you can take out arm with them. I've hit an IS-2 with them, it just demolishes the thing. The Thor, big, huge mortar, 60 centimetre, 600mm. Slow rate of fire, takes a lot of supply to replenish, but these shells will just kill anything. Pretty accurate, actually, but it's very vulnerable. It's a big piece of machinery. If anything gets in your back lines and fires at it, it'll kill the crew or damage it. So just look after it, but really fun to use. You do actually use one of the Scorched Earth DLC missions. It's the Siege of Sevastopol, which is a really good mission, actually. So yeah, definitely fun to use, but it's not a definite buy for you. You don't need one, but yeah, if you're getting annoyed with the Russians and maybe they've got an emplacement, why not just drop the moon on the head with this thing? So now onto the vehicle portion. So we start with basically BMW R71, armoured bike with an LMG. It will die quick, but it's fun to drive around in, but I'd avoid it. So all the cars here, we'll go through them quick. KFZ15, car, not light car with a machine gun, it'll die quick as open top. Kuba wagon, no weapons, pointless, don't waste your points. VW, Volkswagen 82 Kuba wagon, basically the last thing without the top with an LMG, also useless. Another Kuba wagon with a passenger LMG, don't buy it, it's a death trap. So we've got Opel Bitch Transport. Now, if you want a transport for infantry, just buy the squads that come with it. If you need a truck to tow anything, just get a supply truck, because you can tow your artillery, AT guns, and then obviously supply them. Little engineer, motorised, kind of tracked bike. Can be useful, but I never tend to use it. I just use an engineering truck. So this is a passenger half-track. As you can see, it can carry 8 people, but no armour. Very light. It's another death trap. First kind of proper armoured car. A little bit of armour, same as the half-track, 8mm. It's not great, though, as the turret can only kind of go 180, I believe. Pretty sure it can. I wouldn't use it as well. Half-track, it's not bad. LMGs both sides. This is quite a small rate. You can get a small squad infantry unit with it. So you can get an extra 3 men in, but it's not worth it, personally. Then we get on to the first kind of, heavier armoured cars. This is the 2cm with an LMG. Good rate of fire, a little bit of armour. Not bad for back supporting unit. Let's say you have it behind enemy armour, light armour, or infantry breaks through. Can be a good response unit. Fun for that, but not particularly good for frontline fighting. It's basically this is a half track with your little 2.8cm anti-tank gun. It's not bad, but it's not very useful either. But it looks cool if you want to do kind of a mechanised unit and make it, kind of have different units. It can be fun, but also I tend to avoid it. First decent half track, you can carry up to 12 men. Well, 9 more plus the guys who are in it. So, can carry squads in. Good if you want to kind of get troops through, like machine gun fire, or push them through areas where they might get ambushed. You want to try and reduce casualties. Good for bringing up support infantry, but better off just buying it, in my opinion, the armoured infantry squads, so you get one with it. More easy to control. The mortar half track. Now, this is very useful. You've got an 8cm mortar, good rate of fire. It's got some armour, good mobility. I do like these. Good little support unit. I like to have one sometimes. Bring up with the infantry, hammer the position, take out any LMGs. Infantry goes up, deals with what's left. Capture the point. Great unit, great buy, good value. This is just a small armoured car with an LMG 34. It's the SDK FZ221. It's not worth it. It will die pretty quick. It doesn't really. If you want to deal with infantry, you might as well just use something stronger on infantry. This is the 2cm flak on the truck. It's a death trap. Don't do it. If you want mobile anti-air, bring a flak Panzer or an Ostwind. Do not bring this. Same with this. Another death trap. 2cm on the truck. I wouldn't waste the money. 3.7cm on the truck. I'd also wouldn't do it. Bring the Ostwind. It's far better. This is the budget version. Will also die quick. Same gun on just an armoured half track, but like I said, it will still die quickly. And also, problem with these armoured half tracks, unlike the 2cm, these can only fire behind, so you've got to have the truck part that way. And if something comes from the front, it's just going to demolish you. So it's a bit of a pain. This is the 2cm armoured car with a light machine gun. Not a bad little response unit. Lightly armoured, but can be fun. I like sometimes shooting behind back lines to kill artillery if the AI's been a bit sneaky on defence. Or when I'm defending, shall I say. Especially on Conquest Enhanced when they bring it on to tank weapons. It can be useful for shooting past. They're very quick. This is the first decent armoured car, I'd say. It's got a good rate of fire, good weapon, 2cm LMG. Bit of decent armour. Looks kind of badass as well. I do like them, but the better variant is basically going for like the Puma and stuff. This has a 2.5cm, but it's not really an autocannon. It's more like a rapid fire cannon. It's like a bang, bang. It's not as good as an autocannon, in my opinion. It's not strong enough to be effective. I do avoid it, and my god, it is ugly. So yeah, it's not something I use. Bit of flavour if you want to use one. 2cm and LMG armoured vehicle, armoured car. Similar to the 231, this is the 2341, has better armour, up to 30mm. It's the better variant if you want to use it. It's not too bad price, but any dedicated AT will kill it. Good for dealing with infantry and light vehicles. There's a Puma, 5cm gun. It's rapid, decent armour, 30mm, but can deal with lighter stuff. I do like a Puma for a bit of backline thing. Can even take T-34s, and if you hit them in the rear, but do be careful against tanks, it won't last long. It's supposed to be a reconnaissance vehicle in real life, but have really good optics, but Doesn't seem to get the reconnaissance benefits of this. Does have smoke launchers though, as you can see, most do not, so that can be useful. This is basically the Puma chassis with a 7.5cm short barrel weapon. Has high explosive anti-tank shells and high explosive. Really good actually, can deal with quite a few up to medium tanks. I do like it as a sport unit. It's very quick, so good little like back unit to jump in. This is the same Puma chassis, but with the 7.5cm Pak 40, the exact same one that's the AT gun variant, not the one in the tank. So it's got better penetration than the Panzer IV. It's got penetration than the Stug. So it's actually, so even though it's less armoured, great little tank on there. And I prefer it to the Mortars as well because this thing is rapid. So, but it's open top, so just be aware for flamethrowers, infantry grenades, such as stuff like that. 10 SD KF 10 is a 5cm pack on the truck. It's a death trap. Don't use it. It won't last long. Kind of looks kind of steampunky cool, but yeah, it's not. I'm not a fan. Same with the 88. I'd rather much just have a towed 88 than this. This thing will die quickly, and it's a waste of a good gun. Supply truck carries 1,000 supply. Very useful. Can also tow artillery. Certain emplacements. Good unit. Always bring a couple. Fuel. You shouldn't be running out of fuel, but if you think you will, bring one along. I think it carries 2,500 fuel units, so it can refuel like. Basically, unless you use all your fuel, it can refuel like 3 or 4 King Tigers. So, yeah, you've got a lot of fuel in one. Engineering truck, if you want engineers with extra supplies, they can go in and refill. Especially if you're on Conquest Enhanced and you want to build massive amounts of tank barriers and barbed wire and stuff. So that's kind of the sport unit element done off. The armoured units, the tanks. That's what we all enjoy the German army for. So the Panzer I, Ausf B. Now, pretty low armour and only machine guns. 2 MG13s, but it is quite a fun unit. I do believe it can tow stuff. I remember towing stuff with it. So it won't deal with any tanks, but it will rip infantry to pieces. But yeah, it's your first tank you get. It's cheap. It doesn't do much, but it's fun. Then you move on to the Panzer I Ausf F, aka the Baby Tiger. So it had 80mm armour maxed. Like this was basically an anti-partisan, anti-resistance tank. Dual LMGs, but lots. 2 MG34 Panzerluft, lots of armour on it, still vulnerable to Molotovs, but very good little tank. And it's not bad if you think you're going into like an urban close quarters combat unit, also in the infantry. This thing can actually go in and be quite a pain in the arse deal because it's quite small. So, a bit harder for them to hit with the grenade and stuff. On to the Panzer II, the Ausf C. Now, basic 2cm autocannon with LMG. Not a bad little tank. Decent speed, not as good as you think for a small tank, but first kind of tank that can deal with enemy armour and emplacements. Ironically, the primary use of the tank was the machine gun. That was the main. The autocannon was classed as a secondary armament for in case you couldn't take out emplacements with machine gun stuff. But good little tank. I really like the Panzer II. Definitely worth a buy. Ausf F, based on upgraded variant, more armour. I think it has a bit more ammo. It's not bad. If you like a better Panzer II, go for it. Then we get to the Ausf L, the Loops. It's got better armour, like in certain areas. Same weapon, bit. I think it's slightly upgraded. Check. No, it's the same. It's the L35. And it's the 38, so it is a bit better. But it also has smoke launchers, which makes a big difference. Nice little kind of light tank, not too expensive, and can deal with your light tanks as well. Mediums from the rear, but I wouldn't take it for a tank fighting. Got the Panzer 38T. I believe this was Czechoslovakian originally. Not a bad little tank. 3.7cm gun. Can deal with very light tanks. Got 2 light machine guns on it. It's not bad, but it's still lightly armoured. The Ausf A variant. Just a slight upgrade in a sense. But, I am not. They're basically, that's the L40 and that's the L48. 47.8. Bit more firepower, but I think the armour is it slightly lighter? No, about the same, so slight upgrade version. The Ausf F. I'm sorry. More armour. The same gun as the Ausf A. 2 LMGs. Not bad for point cost, but not great either. But it can do the job when you're on the first few battles. The Ausf G has more armour. It's got the same kind of weaponry. Looks kind of cool, but you just basically a tank to get through to other tanks. Then we got this is the converted French tank. I think it was the Suomi, I believe it was called. Basically converted, decent armour, pretty light gun. Yeah, I don't really tend to use it much. You've got this with kind of like a walking Stuka thing with These are, I believe, 30cm or 40cm artillery shells or rocket shells on the side. So yeah, that's an interesting tank to use. A lot of bang for your buck there. This quite basically another version of the 38H. Well, it's the kind of similar version. Not the best firepower, but decent armor for like a kind of medium tank. Kind of slow though. Looks kind of strained, I guess. Bit different if you want to kind of do a bit of like a German force with captured units. It's kind of interesting. So yeah, that. And then onto the Panzer III, your first kind of workhorse tank. Not a bad little unit. This one has dual LMGs coaxial and one LMG. So it's got 3 LMGs and a light gun. Can deal with very light armor and armored vehicles. Great for killing infantry. Do like this thing. Very cheap. Pretty poor armor, but you know, not too bad altogether for a little kind of light support tank. The Aust F, more powerful gun, but only one coaxial LMG. It's a shame. Armor's the same as the E. It's a decent tank, kind of your first thing that can deal with the light armor really efficiently for the Panzer IIIs. Can deal with T-34s from the rear and sometimes from the side, but you will probably get nuked by them. The Aust H, now this has, as you can see, some armoured plates bolted onto it in certain areas, gives it that 60mm higher armour. I do like these tanks, and how Gates Hell counts armour, I believe, even though the Aust J's 50mm, like the armour's already cast like it, because this is simply a higher value, it's more survivable, and the gun's quite decent, so I like the Aust H, it's good value. The Aust J is a bit cheaper, a little bit less armour, decent gun, similar, well, same as before. Can deal with light and some medium tanks. Not a bad support tank, kind of an infantry support tank, but yeah, it's not your main tank hunter. The Aust JL, long barrel variant, more firepower. This can deal with T-34s from the side. Certain weak points on the front, the armour piercing composite rigid. Ain't going to deal with KV1s though, so still an infantry support tank, but this is where you start getting a bit more firepower in your Panzer IIIs. It's quite decent. Panzer III Aust FL. This is more of an upgraded variant of the J. It's a bit stronger. Like I think the armour's slightly stronger on the mantle and stuff. It's pretty much similar to the J though, but looks a bit cool with the camo. Like I say, once you got to the Aust JL, it doesn't really change much. Then you get to the M. It's just got some sky skirts on it and the skirts on the turret. But AT rifles aren't really a major threat to it anyway, so I don't really think that useful. Looks kind of cool though. Then you've got the Aust N, which has a 75mm short barreled. Good for infantry killing. I think it has high explosive anti-tank rounds, so it can deal with some armour, but I'm not personally a big fan of this. You might as well get a Panzer IV basic variant. Decent-ish armour for, you know, he's got 50mm, so it takes some light firepower. Flame variant's pretty good. It will nuke infantry, it can destroy vehicles, take out buildings and placements. Just still quite light. But it's 10 to 80 armour, so it's light on the sides, but it does have that stronger armour on the front, especially on the mantle, but it does lose the cannon completely. So just remember that, it does have small range. Now onto the Panzer IV. This is the D variant, 75mm short barreled, really good tank, very light armoured, but this thing comes with high explosive, anti-tank, high explosive anti-tank, and smoke. The smoke's key for you. Don't get many smoke shells with a lot of German vehicles. I do like this as a support tank. I like to pop off 4 smoke shells, send my infantry up. It means you can get close, chuck grenades on enemy emplacements. Really good support tank, I do like that, but it's very light. The Aust F1, bit stronger armour on it basically. But, you know, it's basically the same thing with better armour and cool camo job. Not bad for the points cost, 2 good decent medium tanks. F2 is now your long barrel, it's got your 7.5cm. But it's not the Pak 40, as you can see, less penetration than the Pak 40, because obviously it's fit on the tank and had to make some, you know, not as effective as that AT gun. But it's mobile, 10 to 50 armour, the side's quite light, there's a lot of flat faces on it, so just remember, unlike your T-34, not as many slopes, a lot of flat areas, so your heavier stuff will just rip through it, and you do tend to lose them quite quick. The F2, it's just, I can't remember the actual difference between the F1 and F2, it's slightly... Is it the chassis? So that's 10 to 50. I'm actually forgetting. Oh, that was the F2, sorry, that was the long barreled. I'm confused about that, apologies. The G, 10 to 18. So this one you get the stronger armour. This is a better version of the medium type. This can take on your T-34s pretty well. It can take quite a few hits from light stuff, even medium stuff. It's got the 2 LMGs like the other ones. This is kind of your standard German medium tank. I like to use these quite a lot. They're good value. They can fight most things. They can even take on your KV1 with decent shots, but still going to struggle from the front. This is kind of my workhorse tank. Always go for this. House H is basically like G, but it's got skirts and it's got that coaxial LMG. It's a little bit of protection from AT things. Still deal with your heavier stuff, but it's a good all-round tank. A little bit pricier than the G, but yeah, and it looks pretty badass. The J, so as you can see, it's got the skirts on the side, just of the turret. Real life, this was basically, because the Germans were struggling with engineering or production, I think they unmotorized the turret. Basically made it a simpler tank to build, and you actually see that where it's a little bit cheaper. So use the side skirts, but yeah, in real life, it's just a downgrade because they were struggling industrially. But yes, good little tank. If you want to research down that line, I can show you here. It's a bit of a dead end with that tank because you get to the Panzers, like same as the Panzer III, sometimes dead end. The J's there, you don't need to lock it to go, for instance, for the Panther or the Tiger. So whether you want it or not, I tend to avoid it. Then we've got the mighty Whirlwind, but these are on Panzer IV chassis. 4 20mm guns. It carries 80 rounds of ammunition in that turret. Like, when the guns are full loaded, it carries about 1,500 rounds of each. Great rate of fire. Deal with aircraft. Amazing for shredding infantry, light vehicles, and your light and mediums. I love this thing. I love the 20mm gun. My favourite tank so far, to be fair, I think. Or favourite kind of anti-air. It's mobile anti-air. It's great. Oswind's just a 3.7cm variant. As you can see, very similar builds. Oswind's a bit better range, bit more strength on the firepower, but I love the 20mm Whirlwind more. I think it wins. Still a good tank. Then we've got the Panther, and this is the Aust D. Now the Panther is, you might think, oh, why should I take this over the Tiger? Tiger has better armour. Well, this has, unlike the Tiger, no flat armour, just straight on sloping, so you actually get good front armour. Side armour is a little bit light, but so the Tiger overall is more survivable. This has one thing. This thing is rapid, good acceleration. The turret, now you might think, oh, 7.5cm. Tiger's 88. It's high velocity. You can see that in the penetration. The Tiger, I believe, is 162mm. We'll just double check that. I'll be giving basic Tiger 166. Close range, right? The Panther 190. This thing has high velocity. It's quick reload. It wrecks tanks, and because of its kind of quick movement, it's great. I like to use it with the combination of Tiger. The Tiger's the anchor, gets hit. Bring up the Panther if there is a heavy tank like a KV-1, like a 1942 variant or an IS. This thing gets around the flanks, it's quick, pumps around straight through, takes it out. Love a Panther. The House A is just the upgraded version of the D, so very similar, as you can see. Just got an LMG on the roof and slight changes. Then you've got the Aust G, which I believe that's Zimmermitt on it to stop magnetic mines sticking. But only the Germans use magnetic mines, I believe. So, yeah, probably not really that useful. But slight upgrade variant of that. So, yeah. Then this is actually another one of those captured tanks to use. I believe it's the French heavy tank. And there's a bit, I think it's the Char B1 originally. But now this is what's weird. Its armour's okay, 1060. You've got your LMG, you've got your 4.7cm gun, and you've got a 7.5cm in the hull. Which is a bit strange, in my opinion, but it was kind of how they designed some of these tanks. So it has got quite a lot of firepower in it, but it's a short-barreled 7.5cm gun. I haven't tended to use it much, but it's kind of interesting if you want to do a kind of captured Legion unit. Like, oh, but you're using all captured tanks, and we go down that research tree. Because if you look on a research tree, I believe they're all in the same slot. They are. Where are they hiding? They are, if you just bear with me a moment. Sorry, folks. It is. Oh, have I lost these as well? Oh, no, they're down here. So this is you go down the armoured car route, and this is where you get to the captured tanks, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, you get the captured tank line. So it's a bit different if you don't want to go down the tank line. So it can be interesting. Now we get on to Zatiga. Very heavily armoured, but it's flat armour, very thick, very strong gun. Now, not as high velocity as the Panther. 88mm, wrecks tanks, wrecks infantry. Really good tank. Can take an absolute beating. But remember, not invulnerable. Watch those tracks getting blown off because for some reason mine seem to always get tracked. But a really, really good tank. I really like that tank. So now we've got the Aust E, which is just the upgraded variant of Tiger. Like, basically, this can deal with pretty much any Russian tank except the most heavy. Like, even the IS series, this thing can deal with. Now, the only threat I would say with the Tiger is you think you're invincible. Now, obviously, you got the extra LMG on this. Just watch the sides a little bit, even though it's as thick as the front pretty much. You can get tracked easy, but this thing, in my opinion, probably the best tank of the game. It's got, this is the key things, it has mobility, armor, and firepower. In my opinion, like the first true kind of main battle tank, even though it's classed as a heavy. Really liked it. It's really good. You'll get good use out of it. And also, watch the cheeky Molotov, because they will still take it down. But yeah, can't go wrong with the Tiger. LSD, which is the Tiger race, so it comes with a more advanced squad. It just looks cooler. So these squad, I don't think it actually makes the squad any more efficient than being veteran. They're just a bit tougher, like they've got, I believe, a bit more health, a bit better levels for shooting pistols and such. But it looks kind of cool. If you want to do the, what was the guy called? I forget the German Tiger race. But if you want to kind of do a bit of a role play as him, it's quite good to hide it and wait for enemies to come forward and just blast them to bits. So that's the Ace. The King Tiger. Right. This beast, it's got the 8.8 centimeter L71. More powerful than the standard Tiger, 236mm penetration up close. The armour is insanely thick. You can see 185 at best. It's got 2 LMGs on it. Even though, actually got 3, so it's got the top one. My bad. The thing is, like, literally, I've had one of these immobilised, both tracks blown off, and it literally getting pounded from side, rear, and front. It took about 3 minutes for the AI to kill it. It's been hit with artillery. This thing, you can just leave it there and just take hit after hit after hit. Great tank. The only thing I would say is the reload's a little bit slower than the other ones, bigger shells. And it is quite slow for turning the turret, I find. But yeah, this thing will crack most things apart. It only comes with high explosive and AP shell, though. No high explosive anti-tanks like the Tiger or composite rigid. I think that's to do with like historical accuracy of when they were building them. They tend to just, the AP was strong enough to crack anything, the high X was strong enough to blow anything up. So it's all you needed. Panzerjäger 1, one of your first kind of tank hunters that you can get on the research tree. It's not bad. It's got your 4.7 centimeter pack. It's not particularly strong. You get it in the first and I believe second mission of the German campaign. Very easy to kill. Open tops, you know, vulnerable. It's fun to use, but it won't last long. The Stug, first Stuggy, really good tank. It's an assault gun technically. This is the short barrels. Comes with, I believe it does come with smoke, high explosive tank, armor piercing, high explosive. You don't get that much ammo in them compared to some of the other tanks because there's a bit of a mix, but it's a good little tank, decent armor for a starter thing, and Stugs are a little bit on a different research line, but I do like a Stug, really good tank. Marder 2, this is your Panzer 2 chassis with a 7.5 centimeter, but it's the actual pack off the ground, so better penetration than your Panzer 4s there. So it's quite mobile, but very easy to kill. I prefer it to the Marder 3 though, because it's a bit lower and has a bit better armor. As you can see here, the Marder 3, less armor, it's got a higher profile. I find these always get clipped on the top, and if it's high explosive shell, it just detonates it. But another good tank destroyer, 150mm pen, can't go wrong with that. The Jagdpins are 38, also known as the Hetzer, I believe. This was, I believe it was Hungarian, but this has actually got quite decent armour. A lot of slope on it, which makes the armour more useful. It's about a 45-degree slope. The turrets, the 7.5cm pack, same as the Stug, same as the Panzer 4s. It also has a little remote-controlled LMG, which the Germans did have. It's radio-controlled LMG. I didn't really realise they used to have them until I read up on it. And in the game, it just reloads itself, but in real life, the guy did have to come out and put the drum on. But yeah, it's quite good because you basically get that LMG on top without having to risk infantry killing you. And there's less weak points because there's no LMG on the front, and that mantle's thick. So that is a good little tank, and it's quite nippy, good for ambushes and sneaking around. The Grill, this thing's quite beastie. It's got a 15cm sig, basically the field gun, but it's mobile, so it's actually quite good. But it's very light, so I personally would rather have just a 15cm howitzer backing you up. But it looks kind of cool. And there's the Grill Oust M now. This one's a bit of a point of contention for some people. Supposedly there was only 2 ever made, but it is absolute beast. So that autocannon is a 3cm. It holds 80 rounds in a clip. Look at that beast there. I love bringing this thing. I don't care if this one's historically accurate or not. It shreds light armour and light to medium. Shreds infantry. Get one of these. You can also hit aircraft. Better than any flight gun, and it does look pretty badass. It is lightly armoured, so it's formidable, but I've literally made the Russians pay for every inch of this thing, and it is great. It's probably one of my favourite units as well. This is where the Stugs come into their own. Same armour as the 33B. It's the 33B. The Ausp, sorry. But it's got that 7.5cm long barrels. The only thing, the assault guns, that gun only has about 15 15 degrees of like rotation, like kind of movement to the side. So if it gets tracked, use it over long range and open terrain. Don't take it up close, because if you get tracked in like in like a small village and there's something just to your left, you ain't gonna be able to shoot it if, for instance, it's off to the side there. The tanks will win. But great assault gun. Pop cap's a bit lower. The price is quite cheap for what you get as well. The early variant, it's got the top machine gun, better armour, it's 80. The gun's still powerful. Really good Stug tank. The Germans built 20,000 Stugs altogether variants. It was cheap and efficient and great for defence tactics. And I do like to use these, especially on a long street or an open map, lots of open terrain. They really do well against tanks. And yeah, they have, even though they have a few flat bits, they do also have some quite nice slope bits as well, where you quite a few rounds hit the slopes, do bounce off. So that's not bad, but good little tank, definitely a favourite. Late version, slightly upgraded, but it's got that remote control turret, which is nice. Saves your guy getting shot in the head when he's on a machine gun. It's got the skirts as well, which is always good. Good tank, can't go wrong with the late Stug either. And if you look on the research tree, the Stugs, they are just here with the Panzers, Panzer 3s. Very quickly, with your research points, you can get the Stugs lates or earlies, which is very similar. Quicker than the Panzers, you get some good AT, but it does dead end you down that route. But it leads you to things like that 42G. It's got a 10.5 centimetre howitzer basically in it. It does have high explosion and high explosive anti-tank shells. I don't think it has anything else, but it's a very good tank. Does a lot of damage, decent range, good little supporting tank. Stern Panzer 1, so literally artillery piece shoved into a tank. It's even got the bloody wheels on it still. It's quite powerful, but the thing gets blown to pieces easily. It gets killed easily. If you're really desperate to have some 15 centimetre mobile support, I'll just show you here. You can get it very quickly, same as the Panzerjäger, but it's a dead-end route as well, so it's not something that I go for. The Stug 33, aka the Brumbar. This thing is a 15 centimetre howitzer in a good casing. It's thick armour, even though it is quite flat. The thing's quite beastly. I do like to use one of these. It'll blow the crap out of any defensive line. Absolutely great. And it literally looks like a rolling brick. So you can't go wrong with a Brumbar. I believe they were used on when Hungary tried to surrender. They sent a few of these bad boys up with King Tigers with their SS division, and yeah, they changed their mind quite quick. Who wouldn't when that thing's facing down? Stern Panzer 4, basically like the Stug 33B, but on a Panzer 4 chassis. Better armour. It is a bit more expensive. You do use one of the new DLC as well on one of the missions. It's quite good, but it hasn't got the charm of the rolling brick, in my opinion. But still useful, just slightly different vehicle. I prefer the 33 though. The Ferdinand, or the Panzerjäger Tiger, basically a massive 88mm long barreled, the heavy variant, same one that's used as the AT gun. It's quite a good unit for sniper tanks, but the thing is, it's slow as hell. It's massive. And I find that even though it has very thick armour frontal, it's very vulnerable to getting tracked. And when this thing gets tracked, you might as well just go for a King Tiger, because it's stuck facing forward. And when you get to the bigger tanks, it seems to always get tracked. So I've not had much luck with that. But cool to use, and I believe in Curse, these things absolutely demolished. They did a really good job. Either that or the Elephant tanks, but I think it was the Ferdinand. Jag Panther, it's got that big 88. It's fast, not pretty fast. It's got good armour, well, pretty good armour, 10 to 80, but it's got some good slope on it. I like the Jag Panther, and it's kind of, if you look on the research tree, depending on, if you're using mods, it's a bit different, but look on the research tree, when you go down the Panther line, it's a quicker way to get that really heavy thing, even though the Panther's quite expensive. If you've gone down the Panther line, you don't want to go all the way down the Tiger line, you can get to it. It's good, it's a tank hunter, and it is badass looking. It looks very cool, and it's very effective. Yeah, the Jag Tiger, it's the beast, it's the daddy. It's the biggest gun in the game, I believe, like for an AT gun. 12.8cm pack, 44 L55. 271mm penetration, lowest 238. This thing has, I believe it's got 230 meters range. It outranges most tanks. Now, it is an assault gun in a sense, or it is a tank destroyer. If it gets immobilized, you're stuck forward, but keep this thing behind. Let's say an IS-2 or something's rolling up. This thing will crack right through it. It will penetrate any tank in the game. It's even got high explosive shells, so it can absolutely annihilate positions. It's great. It looks amazing. Probably only need one though. On Conquest Enhanced, I've had a couple, but on the lower pop cap, I believe it takes about 45 or 50. But it's a monster. It will take out any tank if you're struggling with those Russian IS-2s, or you're struggling with your KVs or your T-3485s, this thing, if the Tiger fails, King Tiger fails, you send this thing in. It will win. If anything survives the gun, I'll eat my hat because it is phenomenal. And yeah, like I say, it looks cool. And then finally, the Sturmwars, or the Sturmtiger, as it's more known to me. It's a 38cm Sturm Raketenwerfer 61 L5.4. Now, this is basically like a mobile siege weapon. It was designed for destroying fortifications and bunker busting. Very effective. I believe the Germans tried to use two to take out was it the Arnhem Bridge or something? When the Americans were coming in, they did miss, but this thing is very powerful. It took an hour in real life to reload. I think it takes 1 minute in game. But there's a bit of a weird thing. It has 1mm penetration, which means that occasionally, I don't know if they fixed this bug, you'd fire it at enemy tank and it would just ricochet off and just land and explode somewhere else. So I advise if you're trying to take a tank out, let's say you're here and the tank's there, fire right next to the enemy tank. The shockwave will break the hull, destroy tracks, stun it, knock it completely out, and also kill any infantry around it. It's a very interesting thing, but it's got pretty good armour, but it's very situational. But it does look cool. But I'm personally a sucker for the other Tiger variants. But yeah, it's something to use more late game. If you're struggling with a bunker, I guess this will bust any bunker. And yeah, it's a very interesting tank. You gotta say the Germans definitely enjoyed making something different. So that's the end of all the units. I think I've gone through everything. I've missed anything, I don't believe. No, I think I've given a little rundown of everything. Hopefully it expands your knowledge a bit. If you want me to go into any more details on things, leave a comment. If you thought it was good, tell me. If you thought it was crap, feel free to tell me. And yeah, thanks for watching. Have a good night, and hopefully see you on the next one.